Right, morning. Yeah, Hamble Point. Sorry, not Hamble Point, Port Hamble Marina. It's New Year's Day, so there's no one here, thankfully. Everyone, the one person that is here is looking at me doing very funny. I think they're a bunch of teenagers. They do this job better than I do, I bet you. But yeah, so Port Hamble Marina. Like this place a lot. I come here a lot. If you are considering a mooring, or a marina, any one of the MDL marinas are pretty good, as are the boat folk. That's where John Seagull is. I like them both. But yeah, this is where we're at. So my mooring is not here, isn't here. I take a slightly different approach to moorings, so I've got two boats. Between them, the marina fees would be close to 20 grand a year, which I think is just bonkers. So anyway, so I take a slightly different approach, and the guys here are pretty happy with that. I use them quite a lot as overnight stays or things like that, and that really works out for me. So anyway, yes, so this is where we're at. That's my car over there, and the first thing I'm going to walk you through what I do is my tender. So as far as tenders go, there's plenty of options. Obviously dinghies and various types: hard dinghies, soft dinghies, rigid hold inflatables, soft inflatables. But my preferred option is actually a paddleboard. I'm going to step away from this slightly because it's quite noisy, as you can tell. So I prefer a paddleboard, and the reason for that is because I can deflate it on the boat and store it really easily, and I can pump it up when I get there. So when I get to an anchorage or something like that, and then have some fun on it. The other thing is that it can go in my boot very easily. This is a convertible. It has a microscopic boot, and so yeah, so that's why I like that. Right, so this paddleboard can go up to 18 psi. I don't pump it up to 18 psi for two reasons. One, there's no need. If you're paddleboarding and you're looking to go a little faster, then that's fine. But I pump mine up to 8 psi, 7 or 8 psi, sometimes up to 10, depending on how I feel, but typically around 8 psi. And in fact, the reason I do that is because I actually want it to sag ever so slightly in the middle, so that gets the bow out of the water. So if I am going into chop, then it keeps a slightly higher bow and keeps my knees a little drier. I absolutely accept that my knees are going to get slightly wet, and I deliberately wear shoes that can handle that as well. Yeah, so the other thing to obviously bear in mind when you're paddleboarding, and this is generally paddleboarding skills, is that you have to release your valve before you start pumping it up, because otherwise, when you take this out, okay, so there we go. Normally that the air rushes out, and don't forget to put your plug back in. That stops the water from getting in your plug. But yes, so if you're pumping up, if you're using a paddleboard as a tender, don't pump it up all the way. If it sags in the middle, keeps the bow slightly higher in the water, and actually helps you to stay drier, bizarrely. If you want to go super fast, pump it up to 15 to 18 psi, and that'll keep it a lot flatter, and you can glide a lot better. Right, so I've popped the paddleboard in the water. This is actually a really good tip for if you're paddleboarding and you're apprehensive about starting. So if you have the opportunity to start at a dock, it's actually really helpful, because what the dock allows you to do is it allows you to get your tail of the paddleboard underneath there. And the reason why that's cool is I can come from here and I can get onto my paddleboard directly from here. So I can get on directly from here. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do this because I'm on my own right now. Ruben's on his way down. But this is actually a really, really cool way, because you can basically just stand up directly from sitting down on the dock. I'll ask Ruben to actually take the video, and I'll show you how to do that. Ruben's kindly doing the cameraman work. So what I was saying is that if you have the opportunity to actually launch a paddleboard from the dock, then this is a really good way of doing it, because you can see I'm sat on the dock, my feet on the paddleboard. I can get my feet into the right position, which is sort of slightly wider than shoulder width, and from here I can stand up directly without needing to sort out my balance. I'm drifting away slightly, which is less than ideal, but the tide's coming in, so the tide will just sort of bring me back. So I hope it does quickly, because I don't have my paddle with me, but it will at some point bring me back. There we go. The wind, so I can come from here, put myself straight. Wouldn't it be funny if I ended up directly in the water? Alright, Reed. Okay, paddles. A lot of confusion around paddles. So I'll show you how to get it. So this is a bluefin SUP. So it comes with a 3-section paddle. This top section comes out as well. But yeah, so I'll show you how to set it up, how I set it up for using it as a tender. So yeah, so straight in, and where are we? There we go. So that's straight in, and that's the length that I use for just paddling out to the tender. It's pretty much the same as you would for your dinghy's paddle as well. If you wanted to set this up for your paddleboard, fairly straightforward. So the only thing you need to make sure is that this is orientated the same as your blade. Take that up so you can reach your fingers over the top of it, and that's the length that you need for your paddleboard. So there are lots of debates about it, but typically speaking, if you get your hand over the top, by the time you get it down here, you can get your blade in the water. So I'm not paddling to the paddleboarding today. I'm literally just kneeboarding out to the boat, and so that's the length that I need. So onto the paddle board. You may notice that I'm not wearing a life jacket. That's a personal choice. So the recommendation, typically speaking, is if you're concerned, then use a life jacket. Personally, I swam at national level when I was a kid, and I have surfed and windsurfed and paddleboarded and done water sports practically my entire life. The only thing I'm concerned about if I were to end up in the water is whether the phone in my pocket would survive. Yeah, so I'm not going to use a life jacket. If you feel like you would be safer with a life jacket, that's fine. Me personally, I think that the biggest risk for most people when you end up in the water is actually head injuries. So if anything, we should be wearing helmets, but we're not. So anyway, so onto the paddleboard. Get down on my knees, get straightened out, get my blade in the water, and I'll drift back because undoubtedly Sky will want to come with me. Sky, you coming? Come on, Sky. You coming? Come on. And that's it. Where are we going, Sky? Eh? Where are we going? Eh? Are we paddleboarding? Eh? Where are we going, Sky? You know where we are. Eh? Sky. Sky, smile for the camera. Who's this, Sky? Where are we? Where are we, Sky? Where are we? Yes. Alright, so Leven Point, here she is. She needs a little bit of a spit and polish, but this is where we're at. So first things first, pull us close and get a good grip. Alright, go on, Sky, you get. So you'll notice that I've not put my paddle on the boat just yet, and the reason I don't do that is because I want to get a good grip on the boat first. But yeah, so get a good grip on the boat, make sure you're all happy, and then put your paddle on the boat. The reason for keeping a paddle with you, quite obvious. If you end up drifting away, then you can get the boat on. So you get back to the boat. Go on, Sky, up you get. Come, up you get. Go on, Sky. Go. Come, up you get. Good girl. Alright, so next thing is getting connected up to the boat so that the paddleboard doesn't drift away. So there's a lot of questions that you guys will have from stuff that you may already have seen. For example, I don't have lifelines. There's a good reason for that. That's a project for this year. Yeah, no lifelines on this boat. So getting up from the paddleboard, bear in mind that you have to get everything centered. So I'm doing this one-handed. I've got the other hand in the camera. So you'll notice that I put my foot right next to the strap, and the reason for that is because the buoyancy of the board is centered around that point, and I can then stand up directly from there. Alright? And then from there, it's just a matter of pulling yourself onto the boat. Now, when you pull yourself onto and off a paddleboard, the most important thing is don't step onto the boat. You're actually pulling everything towards each other, right? So most important thing when you're paddleboarding is keep everything centered. Pull everything to a center. Keep your feet centered. Unless you're standing up, but you should still be central on the board, and then keep everything centered. The reason for that is if I start stepping onto the boat, the paddleboard will start drifting away. All right, so you keep everything nice and close. See if I can do this single-handed actually. Right, so you keep everything nice and centered. Keep everything on the boat. Right, I'm pulling the board towards the boat with my right foot. Keep my left foot on the boat. And we're up. Just like that. Alright, so that's it. Alright, so let me talk you through my mooring. So I have a trot mooring, a fore and aft mooring. So I'm here on my own. There's no boats fore and aft of me. I'm not in one of those like series moorings or whatever they call them. I have a mooring buoy over there. I have another one up the front. I have another one up the front, and then I have my mooring ball, wherever the hell it is, off to the side of the boat. Oh, actually it's fallen in the water, the wind must have blown it in the water. Normally you'd put it on the other side. So I have a mooring buoy over there and a mooring buoy at the back. So I have two lines. The mooring operator has given me two lines. He wants to test out some ham steel as a spare, and then I have two lines up the front. Normally there would only be one. Now what's interesting about what's happening today is that I'm being pulled up stream by both the wind and the current, and that's going to provide quite a unique challenge, because when I pop the ball in the water, it's all going to be on the wrong side of the boat. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. So yep, come back for the next video and I'll talk you through that. But yep, so there we go. That's how I get out to my mooring with a paddleboard. My paddleboard's alongside. I'll sort that out in a sec and make sure that that's not going to get in the way. It shouldn't do over there, but I'll bring it around probably to the other side. But yes, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge because it's all on the wrong side. Right, so the reason I've come down to the boat today is to actually do some work on it, and I thought I would take the opportunity to show you some more of the things that I've done, that I work on the boat. So Ruben and Sky and I have come down to the boat. This guy, hey, where's my girl? So anyway, so yeah, so Sky and I are currently on the boat. Ruben's still on the dock. And I thought I would show you how to get off this mooring, because it's quite tricky today, because we've got the sort of, apart from the wind strength, we've got, which is not much, but there is a bit of a wind. But yeah, the mooring and the mooring lines, etc., are all on the wrong side. So I'll quickly show you how I get off that. So I have warmed the engine up. I've done the wobble checks. So if you don't know what wobble checks are, you've got to look them up. It's one of the important things you need to do before you start your engine. Water, oil, belts, bilges, leads, electrics, and there's variations on that, but that's typically the sort of pre-checks that you want to do, get it started, and make sure that there's water pumping through. But yeah, so seacocks and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you don't know what your wobble checks are, learn how to do those. They're important. So yeah, so I will show you what we do. So for those of you who've been following us for a while, you'll know a little bit more about Leven Point. So Leven Point is a 1974 westerly barrack. She's currently a ketch. There's some debate about whether we're going to keep her like that. But yeah, 31 foot, 1974, so she and I are the same age. Well, actually I'm 9 months older than Leven Point. She was launched in Is 9 months older? No, not quite 9 months older, 7 months older. And then Leven Point. So I'll start her up again. And if you have been following us, you'll know at the start of this year we put a brand new engine in, so she starts on a heartbeat. If I did it correctly. So anyway, there she is, started up. And there's Sky. Hello my girl. Yeah, Sky hates the camera. I think all girls do. So yeah, so pumps water quite nicely. But yeah, so I mentioned that there's two lines. So that one is Amsteel. The mooring operator wants to test that out, and that one is regular 3-strand nylon, and that's the one that typically actually absorbs most of the shock loading on the boat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release this one, take it across, connect it to the other one so that I can release them all together. I'll do the same on the bow, and then basically the trip, the technique, because ideally this would be swung on that side and the boat would be drifting away from it, and that would make it very easy for me to release from the mooring, but it's not. We're on this side, which means that if I put the boat in the mooring, if I put the line in the water, then we're going to drift onto the line, and that could lead to us getting stuck on the mooring, and the mooring operator charges quite a packet for that. But yeah, so you'll notice this side and that side, and ideally I would want them on the other side. So what I am going to do is I'm going to try using just the flow of the water to try and get it across to the other side. So what I'm doing now is I'm moving the rudder to starboard, and we'll see what effect that has. You can already see that is moving the bow around, and then that will eventually come around this side. If it doesn't, then there's a different technique for that. I think I'll probably use that other technique anyway, and I'll quickly show you what it is. I'll talk it through and then I'll show you what it is. Alright, so I think one of the things you need to be able to do when you're sailing is, if the conditions change your approach. So what I was going to do is I was going to spring off this side to use the momentum to pull the boat around, but shifts in the wind and sort of compelled a change to that. So the main thing you need to remember is to keep your line completely away from your propeller, right? It can get tangled around the keel, it can tangle around your rudder. You can cope with those kind of things. Get tangled your propeller, you're screwed, right? So what I'm allowing the boat to do now is essentially swing around with the tide. So I know that I'm clear of the propeller, and so I just need to make sure that the lines are now clear of everything else. Right, so I'm now going to swing around. The boat's going to swing around, so you'll see that we've swung around quite a lot already. That's where we were, and we've swung around completely. So the boat will continue to swing now as if it's on a regular swing mooring, and that's a better outcome all around. So yes, so if you've decided on an approach, you got to be willing to change your mind if the conditions change, you know. So I think Einstein said one of the signs of intelligence is being willing to change, to adapt to change. So here we come, there we go, moorings coming round, so we're all good, we're all clear, and I can now essentially, so I think I messed up all of that, so I don't know what you got and what you didn't. But yeah, so what I've got is I've got the boat by hand. So this is now all clear. If this was obviously a strong wind, I wouldn't be able to do this. But yes, so I've changed the approach based on what I saw. And the boat's now hunting, which isn't good. But if I release this, the boat will essentially go broadside to the wind, broadside to the currents, because the current will try and take the rudder around and the wind will try and take the bow around. But yes, so come back to the cockpit and I'll show you what's happening. So we're essentially drifting now completely clear. Right? I'll bring the helm across to the other side and I can start maneuvering out of this. So there we go. I've got the helm across to port and I can now get under throttle and get clear of this situation here. Right. And there we go. Bring the helm across to the center again. And we're clear. Right. Hey Sky, you coming to join me? Oh my God. Alright, so unfortunately it's getting dark and it's also started to rain slightly, so we're not going to be able to get through everything we needed to do today. So I'll have to do the berthing video for you another time, but I'll talk you through how I approach the dock. Sorry, that's the mooring, on my mooring. So what to expect. At the moment, the situation that I've got is that the wind is blowing upriver, almost dead upriver, and the current is obviously going dead upriver as well. So on the incoming tide at the moment, it's not quite as severe as the outgoing tide. But what that means is that you need to give some careful consideration to how you approach this. If the situation was the other way around and we had the incoming wind and outgoing current, that would make things different again. But you need to consider what is the most significant force that's going to work on your boat, that's going to affect your boat as you moor up. So whilst we are going with the current, the most significant force that's affecting the boat is the wind. When we stop, the most significant force that's going to affect the boat is the current. Now that's currently, right? Now the issue that you've got is that when you stop, the current is affecting the boat under the water, the wind is still affecting the boat above the water. So you need to give careful thought to how you pick this buoy up, right? If I pick it up midship, right, then I need to bring it very quickly to the stern and get that line on, and that way it counteracts the force of the incoming current, right? Because otherwise the boat's going to get spun around. If you pick it up the other way around and you pick it up into the wind, into the current, then the current is going to affect the water, the boat under the water. The wind is going to affect the boat above the water and try and spin you around again. So you need to get your bow line on really quickly. So you've got two ways of approaching this. I can either approach it directly in this direction, bring it alongside, get my stern line on really quickly, or I can approach it sort of more or less sort of heading slightly towards the buoy, and then pick it up at the bow and then pop the line on to the bow and then use the current to bring the stern into where it needs to be. Now for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to do that today. I'm on my own. And so I'm going to approach that. It's not the way I would normally approach it. I'd normally do my bow line, my stern line first, but I'm going to come around and approach it from the other direction. I've got my paddleboard on the port side, so I'm going to have to move that across really quickly, and then I'll talk you through the rest. Alright, so forgive the wind noise and also the shuddering at a certain frequency. The engine creates a lot of vibration. There we go, I've just increased the revs a little bit, so vibrations are a little bit less. So yeah, so I'm going to approach my mooring from the eastern side, so which is that side, from the port side. So I'm going to approach it from its starboard side, I guess. So from my starboard side, its port side. So anyway, I'm coming in this way, which is far from ideal. The boat's going to try and spin it around. So the wind's going to try and spin it around. And so I need to get that bow line on really quickly. And I'll walk you through that. I'm not going to be able to film it because I'm on my own. Ruben's on the dock. And so I will show you what I've done when I get there. But yeah, so combination of approaching upwind, and then I'll put the boat slightly in the stern, arrest its progress, and then get that bow line on super fast, and then we'll use the current to then manipulate the stern, and so I can get that on. So I'm not going to film it. Here we go. I'll catch you guys in a go. Right, so bow line on. And it's got both lines on, the amsteel and the nylon. Got the chafe gear running over the bow roller, and I'll quickly show you what we do astern. So see the boat's hunting slightly, so the wind pushes it one way, wind pushes it another way. We're currently dead into the wind, and I'll quickly show you what you do from here. So I could pull this by hand, and I normally would, and currently my my rudder is, well, pretty much dead straight astern, and so if I move my rudder to starboard, see that it starts affecting how we move, and if I move it to port, it will bring me closer to my mooring, so it will move me slightly closer. We're hunting currently. I think I'm going to have to do this by hand. Anyway, bear with me, I'll do it by hand. Right, we're all tied up. Can't really make it out from here. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're all tied up. Can't really make it out from here. All tied up in the front, so that's all good. I'm going to give myself a smidge of rudder to starboard, sorry, just so that it sort of keeps it away from the mooring line. But you'll notice that my engine is still running. I need to speak to the mooring operator about moving that one slightly further aft, but nevertheless, coming back to this, you'll notice my engine is still running. Never switch off your engine until you are absolutely confident that you are snug and you are fully secure. Once you are fully secure, you switch your engine off. So keep your engine running through the entire maneuver. Get it on, even if you've got your bow line on, still get your stern line on before you switch the engine off. Right, so switch the engine off. There we go. And don't forget to switch your batteries off. So we'll switch the batteries off down here. Alright, batteries are off, and we are all good. Alright, and then close your boat up, and you're ready to go. So final thing to mention, if you've got one of these moorings, make sure that your pickup buoy is thrown over to the other side. So I mentioned the prevailing winds normally come from the southwest. I think I mentioned that, which is in that direction there, which means that most days you get blown off this way. So you pick it up on the port side, or you pick it up on the side facing the prevailing wind, throw it across to the other side, that way it doesn't accidentally fall in the water and get wrapped around anything. So snug as a bug in a rug, and I'll head back to the dock. Okay, so back onto the paddleboard. So again, remember what I said at the start of the video, bring everything to the middle, so the paddleboard is midship. Bring the paddleboard to the middle, bring it to close to you, get your foot right close to the center line. That way the paddleboard doesn't wobble underneath you. I'm going to put the phone down briefly so I can use my second, so I can have my hands free. So pull everything, so pull the paddleboard towards you, towards the boat, and then always pull the paddleboard towards me. And if you can make it out, I'm leaning slightly away from the paddleboard, so the paddleboard slides towards the boat. Bring everything towards you. From here, get your outside foot towards the middle, get your knee down onto your paddleboard, slightly wider, get your other knee down, and you're ready to go. Our paddle's right here, you can see it's starting to get dark, yeah, we're off. So, back at the dock, it's still on the water, on the paddleboard. So a few things to bear in mind if you take this approach. One is, when you approach the dock, don't put your paddle on the dock until you're ready to get off, because if you do get blown away, then you'll end up being without your paddle. Alright, so the first thing to do after that is get your leash on something. Get your leash on something, so I've put it slightly upstream, upwind of me. Now that that's done, I can take this and put this on the dock. Hello. Hello, mate. Hello. There. From here, get Getting off is the reverse of getting on. So again, bring yourself to the center line, bring your knees to the center line, take your outside leg, put it on the center line, right? And then get up and then pull the board towards the dock. Move back slightly, Ribs. So pull the board towards the dock, and that way you can then get off with that as well. So straight from there, straight up. Right, so hope you enjoyed that. That is also why I use a SUP as my tender, because one, I'm not going very far. Two, it rolls up and fits in the back of my car pretty easily. I can take the dog, take some bags, I can use it when I get places. But yeah, that's why I use a SUP, and that's how I use a SUP. So heading home, it is raining, it is dark, and yeah, that's us. So yes, hope you enjoyed that. Maybe next time we'll have a little bit more of a cameo appearance by young Master Ruben, the cabin boy. Jed down. So yep, Ruben got gifted that hat. So yes, that's why we use a dark. So I'm trying to get some light here. That's why we use a SUP, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And Ruben, is there anything you want to say? Oh, you're desperate to say one thing at least, aren't you? No? What do you want to say? Ruben's not allowed to talk with his mouth full. Oh, Rubes, swallow it down, swallow it down, swallow it down. What do you want to say?
Like and subscribe.